Hello, good people, and welcome to another high-octane, rubber-burning episode of Off the Deep End. I am your host and Toge King, Braden, Arbitrary Water Redacted. Joining me is the Mitsubishi Mayhem Monster, Chris Zombie Pie Redacted.
You know, I am happy to talk about a game that I don't feel like we have any hot takes or things that are controversial about said game. I think, as a wise man named Squall Lionheart once said, I dreamt I was a moron.
Also joining us is not Adam Borgmaster Redacted because he had a kid. Congratulations to him for having a kid. So instead, we have brought in a pinch hitter. We have brought in Joeku Redacted.
Hey! I actually do drive a Mitsubishi.
They're good cars.
They are.
And motorcycles.
So, Joeku, why do we know you? What do you do on the internet?
I happen to stream, and we happen to fall into the same pool of people who were hanging out in the giant bomb world, and then just happen to start to know each other over time.
We played through Resident Evil 6 together twice.
Yeah, twice. Mm-hmm. That's not the only thing.
So good you played it twice. So nice.
Wait, wasn't big one that fantasy RPG, actually.
Yeah.
God, it's probably better that I don't remember the name of it.
Aliens Colonial Marines.
We did Aliens Colonial Marines at one time.
Yeah, we did.
We found out it was a speedrun game.
We did Operation Raccoon City.
Some of the worst fucking DLC I've ever played my entire life.
Yeah. Oh my god. What was the fantasy? Oh, we played 30 minutes of Dungeon Siege 3.
Oh, that wasn't even. No, I'm thinking of the bald, like Gears of War bald man.
Oh,
and Elf Lady.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hunted
right.
Demon Forge.
Yes, Hunted the Demon's Forge. Oh, man.
Now that's a video game.
Lucy Lawless deserves better.
Yes. In general, but yes. So you can support us by going to patreon.com/deeplistens. You can give us $1 American dollar to go on this Discord and yell at us about our incorrect opinions on anime and video games.
That's why I
For
give them
$3, you can hear our incorrect opinions on anime in the Oji-san Cast, which is a mostly monthly podcast where we cover an anime. Me, Pete, and Chris. This month, we are watching Welcome to the NHK, because it was my pick, so I picked a moody early 2000s seinen show.
Wow. Moody 2000s era seinen energy for your anime?
Yeah. I haven't picked one of those before.
It's very out of character.
No. So, today we are covering a fan pick. We are covering Lost Odyssey, which was picked for us by DJ 1,000 years ago. I think around the time we were closing up our fan pick list.
Yeah.
But we are Lost Odyssey, the hottest video game of 2007. If you were an Xbox 360 owner and liked JRPGs.
God, what were the GOT? Well, I was Grand Theft Auto 4,
yes.
Fallout 3, MGS4, I think were the big ones for like
Was
2008.
that also
Yeah.
Uncharted or was that 7?
Uncharted was 2007.
There was Dead Space, Mirror's Edge.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Like 2008,
EA.
it also would have been Super Mario Galaxy.
Oh God, best game.
2007. Mario Galaxy was 07.
Well, still take it.
Yeah.
So Left
All
4
right.
Dead, Dead Space. Yeah, it was a good year.
Yeah.
And
Hell of
some
a
would say
year.
this game compares favorably to the games that came out.
Yes. So this game, Lost Odyssey, came out in Japan on December 6th, 2007 on the Xbox 360. It came out in North America on February 12th, 2008. It was developed
Sorry, I
by
was going to ask
Eel
that
Plus.
that data about the Japanese release. Do you have any idea how many copies it actually sold there?
I can. Oh, we'll get there. I'll
Okay.
look it up.
Financially, this was a big deal. This was a big get. Like
Oh.
getting 2 games from Mistwalker for
Mhm.
the Xbox 360 was considered a big deal.
Yes.
Um,
According to Wikipedia, the
The Soul
online
Arbiter.
encyclopedia, Lost Odyssey sold about 100,000 copies in Japan, according to Famitsu numbers.
That's genuinely way more than I would have thought.
Yeah, for a Xbox exclusive game in
Yeah.
Japan, that would have been considered genuinely good.
Yeah. I'm sure that
And
moved
then you have to
consoles.
and
Yes.
add on the fact that it is going to sell reasonably well for a game of its type outside of Japan. Like I would say that it was an overall success. Whether or not you see a way for this story to continue on beyond this game is a question that we will get into maybe later. But yeah, this
Okay.
game was originally planned, I think, to have sequels, but things just didn't pan out. The
Yeah.
relationship between Mistwalker and, let's say, that old
Xbox.
guard of Microsoft Game Studios and Xbox soured very significantly.
Thanks, Jay
Much so-
Allard.
Yeah.
So much so that Sakaguchi returned in a directorial capacity for the last story, and that is a Wii exclusive. I believe the thing that really did burn Mistwalker was the cancellation of Cryon, which I think it had a budget of like 1 billion yen, was what I heard, and Microsoft pulled the plug for reasons. But yeah, Joeku, how about you explain what is the elevator pitch for this game?
I gotta
Sure.
talk
the
about
plugs,
Feel
right.
Plus, because Feel
Sure.
Plus. So, like all of Mistwalker's games, Mistwalker is a company that is like a dozen people. It is Sakaguchi's production, like, development company. But Feel Plus originally started making video games as a company called Scarab before they made a Macross game in 97. But most notably, they existed as a singular entity for about 5 years. And in that time, they made Lost Odyssey. They worked on Infinite Discovery and Star Ocean 4. So that's a triple header of Xbox 360 RPGs. They also made that fucking terrible Ju-on the Grudge game for the Wii. And 99 Nights 2. And then they made Mind Jack.
Oh my god.
And then they got merged into the rest of Marvelous AQL.
Where dreams go to die.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, Joeku pitched me on Hironobu Sakaguchi's Final Fantasy XI.
All right. Picture this. You and I are in an elevator, and I tell you, I have some of the core names behind Final Fantasy. And how about we make an RPG exclusively for your system? And it's sort of a Final Fantasy off brand where we're in a world where there's a handful of people that happen to be immortal and also happen to have lost their memories. What happened to them? How can they solve the world's problems of these four competing nations? And how can they get their memories back and save the world?
Wow.
Through turn-based fights, apparently.
I, a Microsoft executive, love this idea because I need to sell this console in Japan, a place where no one wants to buy it.
Yeah, so Lost Odyssey really is, even at the time, the pitch was basically off-brand Final Fantasy as a partner project to Blue Dragon's off-brand Dragon Quest. And generally, I think in going for that, they mostly succeeded in basically making something that's kind of Final Fantasy-y.
Yes.
To respond to you ever so slightly, Joeku, I would say that this game is more successful in emulating Final Fantasy than Blue Dragon is emulating Dragon Quest.
We will not be playing Blue Dragon for this podcast.
But I think that the thing about this game, and I read some reviews at the time, and the one that I kind of agreed with the most, even if I didn't fully agree with the enthusiasm of it, is that came from the One Up review. If you're old enough to remember the website One Up, Andrew Fitch, who later died of cancer, but was like one of Lost Odyssey's biggest defenders, said that in a lot of ways, this game is if Sakaguchi had actually made Final Fantasy X and wasn't busy doing a movie. And that's really true because it feels as if it's like a response to what everyone else was trying to do to make JRPGs, in quotations, relevant to Western audiences, while also like crystallizing the stance that no, these are the hallmarks of the genre.
Right.
Yeah. I should
Which
also
makes
say,
it interesting.
Field Plus had a bunch of former Sacknoth / Nautilus developers. So there's also a lot of overlap with the Shadow Heart series and also Legend of Dragoon and Phantom Dust.
Okay.
But this game is, I would say, this is the herald. This is the torchbearer of that very brief period when Microsoft was money-hatting a bunch of exclusive JRPGs in order to break into the Japanese market. And I feel like this is the one that people talk about.
Which
Weird
is kind of
freaks
funny
will talk
to
about
me.
Enchanted Arms.
Well, yeah, this as a game, it's so decent that I think due to the nature of it being what it is on the platform it is, makes it more of a bigger deal than it actually should be as a game.
Yes.
I 100% agree. I think that there's two things going in this game's favor. And we've kind of talked about this on the Discord. The first thing is that the B tier JRPG fucking died in the 360 PS3 era because the JRPG was in a bad place in that era, that gen, period. Like, you didn't have Wild Arms, you didn't have Shadow Hearts, and this game, in a lot of ways, has a lot of that Shadow Hearts energy of not quite having the zeitgeist or the cultural cachet of Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, but still shooting for the stars and having high concept, ambitions with characterization, world building, production values. The problem, I think, is that this game really did benefit from being released at a time when the genre was in its literal kind of lowest points.
Yeah,
And
absolutely the
so the
nadir.
people who maybe the people whose first true console that they gravitated towards, the original Xbox, and so this is their second console, or maybe this is their first console. This is kind of like the gateway game in a lot of ways.
In fact, I can speak to that because when I was just playing it now for the podcast here, my brother happened to see that I was playing it. He said his friend, who he's now known for a couple decades, this was his first JRPG, and he played this over and over and over, then got into other ones on the 360, like Phantasy Star Universe, and moved on to other RPGs in this style from there. But it literally was a gateway game for a whole genre for people.
And so, in a lot of ways, Braden and I have had this conversation, Joeku, is this game kind of is like Golden Sun, where
Okay.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
nostalgia for this game, the same way there's a lot of nostalgia for Golden Sun. And that nostalgia has completely clouded the conversation about what the game actually is and what the game
Hmm.
genuinely accomplished, both, story wise and mechanically wise. But because it's people's like first or introductory step into intermediate games and maybe like really obscure stuff or the genre in general, it's impossible to have that conversation, or like that nostalgia is kind of impenetrable to the point to
Yeah. I
where I think this game is oversold. Not necessarily saying it's bad, but it is
Sure.
oversold and
Yeah.
overpresented by its defenders.
Yeah, having just played it, I'd agree with that. In fact, I feel like the most relevant moment it did have was genuinely one of the best commercials for a video game with the Jefferson's Airplane's White Rabbit.
Oh, right.
And that
Right.
thing was playing in prime time. That is how people heard about this crazy game. It didn't even do a good job of selling what the game was, but it was just this weird offbeat thing that looked really cool on your new HD TV because it's 2008.
Yeah, this game looks good. Like this game looks
Unreal
cool.
Engine 3, baby.
There obviously the game's like overall graphical fidelity has taken a step backwards, but the
Yeah.
look of this game and the world is unlike anything that
It
I've
it
ever
has
seen
some
before.
strong visual design.
Mhm.
Um, some of the
I
concepts,
think
yeah,
the way they are able to use the HD era in some interesting ways, especially in the intro when they transition from video to gameplay, doing a big camera sweep, still super impressive and still hits.
Mhm. The only thing that I would say as a criticism to the look and the design of the game is I think these character designs are sometimes atrocious. Um,
the character design was done by Takahiko Inoue, who is best known as the mangaka who did Slam Dunk.
Okay.
some of
It
these
kind of
outfits,
feels
like
like
those.
they
Sorry, go ahead.
also no, I was gonna, not only are they not good, they don't even feel like they fit in with the rest of the world. When each of these four nations actually has a pretty solid set of like core design principles of how the clothing and the architecture looks, your main characters, even the ones that aren't immortal, because about half the cast is mortals, they still feel out of place and weird, and that stuff doesn't seem to click together in tandem.
Yeah,
No,
so, like,
it's
Kane is maybe the biggest sore thumb that I have because he just wears an outfit, and it's not culturally represented anywhere else in the world. Now, it's a
Yeah.
cool look, and he has that strand of hair that just stands
Yeah,
there
the one
statically in
strand of
front of
hair
his
that's
face,
always there, that's
yeah.
but
good.
the characters aren't actually visually or visual representations of where they come from, which is an odd
Yeah.
choice. And then plus, when you compare your characters and your party members to the actual NPCs you interact with, they just stick out like a sore thumb sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Kame's design, like you can make the argument that like he's a person out of place and out of time, but
Totally.
also it
That is a little weirder when the characters all have had amnesia for 30 years,
yes.
so they are just kind of in the world and have been for a few
Yeah.
decades.
It's there's a lot.
Yeah.
Uh but yeah, so yes, the protagonist of this game is Kame. There
Time,
is a
sorry.
whole cavalcade of characters who are uh half of them are mortals, half of them are immortals.
And I think
Oh,
maybe the strongest aspect of the game's writing, aside from the short stories, which we can get into, is the fact that like two-thirds of the characters are related to another one of your characters,
yes.
where you get these interesting dynamics of I'm your grandfather, but I'm 30, I'm the same age as your mother, or this is my son, he looks 30 years older than I do. And how they try to approach family dynamics of what would happen when somebody in your family tree lives forever I think that stuff works pretty well.
Yeah, I think it has an interesting group dynamic, uh, where each character tends to have a connection with other characters, including straight up, hey, you're my grandkids.
And I'm here to meeting you for the first time while your
Yeah.
mother's on her deathbed. Whoops. Let's
Whoops.
go on an
I
adventure.
guess that's like the one. I'm not super positive about the story. But I will
So
say the
overall,
thing
yeah, I agree. I,
in
I agree.
Kane's
Sorry, please go ahead.
in Kane's defense, he's a different type of protagonist, even though he starts off as the moody emo, off-putting
If you want to
JRPG
be kind, you
protagonist.
could call it stoic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's stoic and melancholic in a world that is also stoic and melancholic with like brief bursts of humor, similar to like Shadow Hearts' sense of humor that gets speckled in every now and again. And these characters are trying to discover themselves, and it's like a cooperative process of everyone helping and easing each other into learning more about their past together. Like all of these people who have been in hibernation or have been in a coma or whatever you want to characterize it is, they all understand, yo, you also don't know what the fuck's going on? Cool, because I'm the same thing. I totally get it. And so there's a level of cooperation that I think is actually surfaced really well in the game. And it's a character driven story at the end of the day.
Yeah. Actually, I think now coincidentally, despite that saying that I think the interrelatedness of the characters is something that works in its favor, I do think that leaves the core narrative thrust of one man being very evil and the relationships of these four countries to basically go nowhere and be nothing.
Oh yeah. No,
This
it's
the strongest this stuff ever was the very beginning of the game where you
Mhm.
see the futility of the conflict between two of these nations. A meteor crashes into them, and Kane's just like, or Kime's like, well, this is my life. I guess this is what happens. And I think that does such a good job of setting the tone that nothing else in the game's
Yeah,
story proper ever lives up to.
it's a great intro. Like it's genuinely one of my favorite. Like it's up there with like Final Fantasy X in terms of just setting a tone, setting the scale,
Yeah.
up this world that it then follows up with just very rote world JRPG world building, and I guess we have to get into it. Combat that immediately has like a quarter of the hooks that it eventually does develop once you get to like the 10 or 15-hour mark. Like it's a real awkward juxtaposition to have this big epic battle that is like to Kane's past, and then we go through the motions in the most slow plotting manner possible.
So, ZP, when you were saying that people see this through nostalgic eyes, I wonder if that problem in particular kind of got memory hold because Final Fantasy 13 would soon come out and do that even worse.
I think that's definitely it. I also think that, like you said, for a lot of people who maybe weren't accustomed to a traditional turn-based battle system with random encounters
Like
in a
they wouldn't
world
know any
map,
better.
they actually did benefit from that
Sure.
hand-holding and that kind of more slow-paced tutorializing,
Mm.
because that's the thing that I kind of had to remind myself is like, oh shit, this has a world map. Like that had been completely boiled out of the genre at this point. Like that was quaint having that in here.
There are
Um,
certain things that feel like I think the world map's one of them, and I want to say the little jingle you get at the end of a fight feel like fake throwbacks to if this was like the 10th game in a series that started 20 years
mhm.
prior. It feels like weird nods and like the certain you get like sort of MIDI sounds for a victory
Yeah.
fanfare. Certain things that feel like it was like this on the regular Nintendo. We're still doing it.
That and the whole random encounter system where
Yeah, the way
it's
the
just a straight
screen
up random encounter
flashes.
system,
Yeah.
not like, yeah, it's not the I mean by this point, like, yeah, even Final Fantasy was real world encounters where you bump into them and then you fight them. Atlas had even transitioned to that. Which I guess leads us to maybe the thing we've kind of been dancing around, which is the combat system. There's a battle initiative and there's length of actions to determine how events resolve each turn, but this is ultimately a turn based combat system. A lot of people who like this game will talk about the aim ring system, where using equipable rings, you can have these added effects.
I have to
They're
say,
quaint. They're
yeah,
interesting when you do it the first couple of times, but
and then you
ultimately
ignore it for the rest of the game.
you
It's
ignore it
no
for the rest of the
judgment
game.
ring.
Yeah.
And once you figure out the gimmick for each character in terms of guaranteeing their perfects, it's really just becomes I'm tired. I got to make sure I get perfects and not goods. And it's just
Yeah.
like a misclick or a
It's
mistime
not
just
something to
results in
keep your
you
attention on the
buffering stuff
screen
over.
during all these combat animations.
And there are a lot of animations, which I
Yeah.
think really
Things take
slows
time.
the combat
It's
down.
I
It
would
feels showy
say
offy for the time that it's
yeah.
from. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it definitely is a very it's showing off the graphical fidelity. There weren't
So sorry.
exactly
To be perfectly clear, what happens when you do a standard? This is only with standard attacks, not spell casting, not
yes.
other skills. You get a Gears of War roadie run view, and then a ring comes in from the outside of the screen, and you hold down the right trigger, and then try to let go the very moment it overlaps with the ring on top of your target. You can miss, or you could get a good, which is pretty close, or you get a perfect, which will be better for you in terms of damage and accuracy and whatnot.
Yeah, and then there on top of that, Joku, there are two types of characters. They're the mortals and the immortals, and they both level up and gain additional skills completely differently. Mortals gain skills by leveling up the traditional way, and then benefit from skills that they can gain through like equipping accessories. Your immortals in your party do not know any skills initially, but instead gain skills by linking with immortal character that is a part of your battle formation and this unlocking things. I'll just say this, there's no such thing as cheating in a single player game. Look up the best party combinations because there is no more frustrating a feeling when you think that you've figured out a synergy only to find out that there's nothing there. There
Yeah,
usually is something there, but then
mhm.
you usually do
The
find
handful of
yourself.
deaths that I did have in the game were mostly just because I just have characters in here that can't do anything against this because of immunities or whatnot.
yeah.
It's just, well, this party just isn't going to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Certain
Or
characters
Yeah.
have pretty defined roles. Or at
Yeah.
least some of them do.
Or on top of that, you have to like put in a little bit of work to get the actual abilities that makes the party
Yeah.
comp that you're trying to explore work.
I think
Which
that's actually maybe my biggest complaint with the game outside of the story is that at least while you level up quickly, it felt like after maybe every battle or two, there was some matter of management in terms of after the fight, it'll say your character got SP, you learned a skill, and you're like, okay, wait, so this is Ming. Is this the skill that I have because I have her linked into Jansen, or is this a skill because of the accessory I have on her?
Yeah.
And you got to go through all the menus and play with stuff, and it's not the most snappy menu navigation.
And it's
This
not
stuff just takes
the
time.
most interesting
No, it's
skill
not.
management
Especially
system.
later on, once like some of your characters you use the most, like Kym and Seth, they just had everything.
yeah,
Like especially from the items. So it's at a certain point, it's like, well, I
right.
guess I'll give them their earth resistance accessory now. Why not?
So yeah, immortals can also learn skills from accessories by equipping them similar to mortals. And it's a very similar abilities point system to like Final Fantasy IX's gem based system. Once you learn that skill, you can assign them. I found the number of skill slots for those immortals to be very limiting for some of the characters. You or actually no, yeah, you only have 3. You can expand them if you find the slot seed
Slot
items,
seats. Yeah.
and
I
there's just not enough of
essentially
them that early
so
enough.
apparently there are theoretically enough in the game if you do all the side stuff to get every immortal to 20 slots, which sounds crazy. But that's and then that wasn't my case. I got Kym and Seth to I think 8 each, and then Ming and Sarah maybe to 5. And it
Yeah.
still felt like that's not quite enough.
Nope. And then also you don't really need to do that. There does come the point. I beat this game when it came out on the 360. I did not beat it for the purposes of like recently rebeating it because I kind of just reformulated how I felt about the game. But you really don't need to do that though, Joku. Like there does come the point where you pretty much have no motivation to deviate from the party that gets you through like the
So
midpoint of the game.
yeah, there are a couple fights near the end that kind of get clever with party hopping. Um, there was a particular boss very near the end. I don't know if you remember this one, where it has an alpha and beta version. You see both bars on the screen at the same time, and each party can only have 2 members. And you flash between two realities, and you have to kill it on the same turn, or it does like a big wipe attack. And so you get that kind of thing, but that is a super rarity as far as that towards the end of the game where any of it matters. So then you're right. Mostly you could stick with the party, except for maybe my favorite chunk of the game is the entirety of Disc 3, which is a very forceful like narrative push that splits your party into 3 groups that change as characters move around each other. It's interesting in that it's totally different from everything before and everything after, but it does force you to use different party compositions. But you're right that you don't have to make choices about it. But I think it was neat narratively and dynamically for the gameplay to force you into these different situations with different groups.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, mechanically, I didn't find myself so enthused with the mechanics that's the reason why.
Of course. By the time I got to the last dungeon, I'll just put the 4 immortals in and 1 other character and call it a day. And that's all I had to do.
And then there are a lot of characters that just feel like fluff. Those kids are atrocious.
The kids are terrible.
There's one that eventually gets good, but the other one is always useless. And then plus, I just cannot.
I want to say the king you eventually recruit. Once you get him in your party, he's not part of the story anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what was his point?
Story. I mean, all of these JRPGs have temporary characters that slot in just for a bit. The problem
he's permanent. He's just like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's not quite there with the balance.
Yeah. So, should we get into what the actual story is?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this is the part where we're probably going to most dump on the game, because basically the entire plot is the evil Vizier archetype character has plans to take over and dominate the world. He is one of 5 immortals. He's just the one that happened to turn bad. He had your 4 immortals through force of will or through tricking them into submission to wipe their memories 3 decades ago, which is also the same time this magic industrial revolution happened. I don't know if those are ever linked. That doesn't actually come up in the story. They don't really explain why that happened at the same time, but it did. And then the 4 nations that compose the world started building up in different ways, and new conflicts started. And he's ultimately just masterminding everything, pulling a Palpatine to be the guy who runs the world. And then you beat him up at the end.
Yeah. But is that's not the part of the story that people care about. But yeah,
that's not the part that anybody talked to me about before I played this.
No one who likes Lost Odyssey is like, yeah, I like the part where you fought the evil
big bad
guy,
evil dude,
evil guy named what the fuck's his name? Gongora.
Yeah. Me?
Hey,
Gongora.
I do appreciate one. Here's the deal though. Gongora is introduced as the big bad, and there is no rug pull bullshit like last minute. No, wait, I was actually like Gongora is the villain for the entire fucking story, and I appreciated that.
It's funny that it doesn't turn out it's God in the end or something like that, because he was so blatantly evil and manipulative on camera. The way the camera would always zoom into him doing this sneaky smile, like, oh, bad guy. that I thought it was going to be a rug pull at some point and that somebody else was pulling his strings. But no, it really was just him doing everything.
Yeah. So I think that might have been like, you know, I think that might have been self-reflection on Sakaguchi's part. Like, I cannot. I am aware. I am aware. Um, but because the scaffolding for the story, as Joku kind of pointed out, is so simple, this story and the world is so reliant on these characters that when the characters are good, you just kind of like, oh yeah, this is kind of like an interesting way to learn more about like Kame and Seth and Jensen. And then when you're doing the most eye peeling, skin peelingly terrible things like that fucking funeral scene with the fucking kids,
Yeah, the long, slow
you
torturing.
want to fucking die.
Yeah.
I do appreciate the other thing that, though, I think Braden, you were kind of hinting at it. The other thing that a lot of people talk about is this ain't your dad's Final Fantasy, and the moment where I really feel like the game like is trying to just plant its flag on the ground, like we're mature, is the introduction of Jensen, where he just comes out and he is completely drunk and has two prostitutes next to him, and he's like,
Sorry,
"Yo,
it's three.
three
Even
girls
more,
just come
it's
out. And it's like,
three.
yo, I'm your partner. What do you fucking need from me? I just had sex."
Yeah, the whatever attempts at maturity the game has mostly doesn't work. I think maybe the rare times it does is when after the immortals get some of their memories back, they can start to communicate non-verbally or just like have situations where we've known each other for 1,000 years. So, like, here's an example. There's a scene midway through where the rightful king of Gotsa, one of the four kingdoms, sends a message, like puts a coin in Kaime's hand, and then Kaim and Sarah, his former wife and also an immortal, sort of just look at each other and are like, "Is that?" And they're like, "Yeah, okay, let's go talk to him." And then when they talk to him, they don't talk to each other at all. They're both one side of a conversation because they know each other's thoughts so well. They can just participate as a single unit in advising him what to do with his kingdom and the conflicts they're in. And that's the brief bit where you're like, "Oh, these are adults that have lived a long time." But otherwise, it is just kind of pushing on edgy and pushing the rating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's got that T for teen edge to it.
And then Gongora starts doing just like the most mustache twirling villain
Yeah,
shit. Like when
laughing
he
into the sky, doing evil
when he
magic.
flash
Yeah.
freezes that entire country and he's just laughing and cackling about it, it's like, you there's this thing called subtext.
Yeah,
Use
Yeah.
it.
No.
He freezes an entire country
Yeah.
just in ice.
Just
It's
like in
like,
real life.
yeah.
Yeah, and the game's aesthetic is very Magitech
Mhm.
in a lot of places, but each of the different nations kind of has a different look.
they use different. Like
And
some of it's straight. They have different
yeah,
text. Like some is Cyrillic, some's Arabic.
yeah.
Yeah,
That stuff is neat. I think that
Mhm.
I think the game has a lot of good aesthetic around everything else.
hmm
Um, but I feel like when people talk about the thing they like about this story, they're talking about the 1,000 Years of Dreams.
yeah.
So, 1,000 Years of Dreams are a collection of short stories uh, from the perspective of uh, these immortals who have lived long and arduous lives.
Chapters of their Odyssey.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and they were translated separately from the rest of the game. They were translated by a Harvard professor, Jay Rubin, who is best known for translating the works of Haruki Murakami.
Oh, right.
So they went to a specialist for this. And these things are the best part of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But because, yeah, they are just like little vignettes. They are little short stories about these characters.
And
And
they're all like they're ultimately little morality tales that
Yeah.
that these characters just wander through at some point. Most of them are from the perspective of Kime and his past. You do get some
Yes.
with the other immortals, but it's mostly him, and he has jobs as a fisherman, a town guard, what have you.
Yeah.
Story stranger wanders into town, encounters some sort of story, little story, something bad happens or something good happens, and then he moves on.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
they're really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh
What's your favorite one? Go down the
uh
list.
fuck. I like the ones that are just weird and sad, which are most of them.
Yeah. No, a lot of bummers.
Yeah.
I think for me, it might be the one where, speaking of weird and sad, where they don't explain how he got in there, but Kime was in a solid black room, and it's like a series of hanging circular cages, and there's some old revolutionary in another cage there with him, and then after like 20 years in there, the revolution comes, and they go outside, and the old revolutionary didn't prepare his eyes to adapt from 20 years of darkness, so he looks at the sun and goes blind. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
there you go.
It's yeah. But also I think there's also kind of a negative to the fact that these short stories that were written by an acclaimed Japanese novelist, what's his name?
Jay
Uh
Rubin was the one that was the translator behind these works, but it's
yes.
Murakami, I think.
Kiyoshi Shigematsu,
Mm.
I believe, is the guy who wrote most of the Thousand Years of Dreams. Uh yeah. So it's kind of weird that
I,
the go ahead.
you already know how I feel, so I'm going to let you
Yeah.
finish. Sorry.
I think it's I think when I talk about how there are games I like that have a lot of text and a lot of dialogue, your Planescape Torments and your Disco Elysiums and your Esoteric Ebbs, games that are very text heavy and very writing heavy. The writing in those games is still directly connected to what you are doing in the game. Whereas all of these Thousand Years of Dreams stories, they're great. They set a very good mood and tone, but they have nothing to do with the thrust of the narrative or what you are doing in the JRPG.
So
Yeah,
this is where I think that these books. So I think that these stories are well written. Jay Rubin, the translator, did an incredible job translating the text and making them really just genuinely good short stories. However, they are so poorly integrated and sometimes they just so poorly connect to what is actually happening in the video game that it feels like a misuse of the medium. Um, and then fundamentally, like you look at this game and how it spends so much of its money on these, like this was a multi-disc game when
This
it
has
came out,
4 discs, 4
4 discs
DVDs,
on the
baby.
Xbox 360, and there's no way you could come up with an interactive element here. I get that someone would say, but you like visual novels, ZP. This is a game to where like it just pauses everything to go through the motions of you reading a book, which again, the stories are good to great, but now you've hit pause on what I have done to present this book, to present like these vignettes. No way to show them to me visually. You read them. And I'm willing to be introspective about Kime's past experiences, and I know that and I understand that it brings you closer to Kime as a character when initially he seems like he doesn't want to share this stuff. But it just feels very there's a dissonance there. Like there's a dissonance there when I'm doing all of this like ornate interaction with this world and there's this kind of almost midi ass music and like that fucking victory tune. I forgot to mention that, like the fact that it's this lo-fi almost
It's
PS2 sounding victory interlude is just so
the
dissonant.
the choices of like MIDI instrumentation or like sample instruments that Uematsu is using. I would say this is not his best work.
He's going through the motions.
Some of them are good.
Some of his electronic music is good. Like the intro theme, I thought was very good.
It's like how when we played the last story, and when you get to the final boss and like the Nobuo Uematsu like jazz organ starts playing, and you're like, oh, this is where he started to care. Kind of a similar energy here, where like even a middling Nobuo Uematsu soundtrack is pretty good. But I would say not a ton of standouts.
But to get back to the issue of like my big problem with the Thousand Dreams, they're fine stories. It's just, to get back to Joku's point, if you're willing to like take the time to write these books, I would have preferred some of these stories that we learned in these books to what we actually get in the greater narrative thrust of the game. There are some of these short stories that would have been a better frame for this game than what we end up getting with a giant vizier who turns into a maniacal monster and just freezes entire continents and cackles in the background.
I guess that's why it's really telling that they were written by somebody else than the actual writing team on the video game.
Yeah, and so that's the weird disconnect I have with this. Ultimately.
Interestingly, though, ZP, I don't suppose you remember the ones that were from the perspectives of, say, Seth or Ming or other characters.
Because I do.
They're brief, and there's like only a couple of them, but they do a better job than the Kaim ones of actually setting up who they are as a person and giving the characters more internality that does relate to the way they act in the main game. And I think it's telling that it's more like what it feels like is that they told that writer about these particular characters and worked more hand in hand, or got something particular out of that character because of the short stories, rather than Kaim stuff, which is come up with 20 short stories from just vague fantasy setting, and then they put Kaim in there.
Yeah.
And those definitely work a little bit. Like Ming's one is all about her and having her own trustworthy or non-trustworthy attainers and viziers and whatnot, and how that talks about how she thinks and about her whole thing about trying to be a pacifist, run a pacifist country. And that actually really did inform her character in a way that's better than some laborious dialogue where she says out loud how she thinks. That's a case where I think that really works. Whereas all of these Kaim stories are just stuff that happened, and he's only thinking about it because he sees a child out on the street, so he thinks of a story with a child.
That's a contrived thing. Like, there's the one where you see a bird and then Kaim has a flashback. Some of that stuff is just really rote. Just super contrived.
Like, it definitely, even though I really, I don't have an issue with this stuff, and I do think it's a decent way to sort of just have more adventures in the life of somebody that's lived for 1,000 years. It really does feel like a separate thing that is jammed in there. There's not a lot of interplay between any of this stuff and the rest of the game.
And I would, in spirit, agree with both of you in saying that this is the best part of the game. I would just, remind us all, if this is the best part of your video game, that says a lot about how enthused we were with like playing this game and the actual surrounding narrative that's driving these characters to continue with their adventure.
Like, imagine if the actual story of the game was written and presented to you in the style of these dreams, how bad that would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, Braden, do you have any like things that you want to like say in terms of the actual story? Because if I forget, are you the only one of us that didn't finish the game, or you watched Joeku finish?
I did not finish the game.
Okay, like I said, I originally finished this because there weren't a ton of. I was the type of person who played all of Enchanted Arms, and it's like, oh boy, this gay stereotype character is a lot. Fuck me. This is terrible. It
does have pizza golems.
It has pizza golems and a weird Pokemon multiplayer system, but not much else.
Yep. This flamboyantly gay character sure is a lot.
Anyways, it has a bit of a bottoming out, Joeku, in the middle, but at least it kind of sticks the landing because it's got a good ending and a decent epilogue.
Yeah. It wasn't great when my system crashed in the middle of the big boss fight.
Right.
So I looked up a video at the end of just the last 30 minutes instead of actually beating it, funny enough. But yeah, I'd agree with that. Thankfully, at least in a story that, as we've said, is pretty much just surrounding all these characters, the characters end up where they probably should for their stories. Like, they didn't flub it in that regard.
Yeah.
It's just not the most interesting thing.
Yeah, so they end up in Grand Staff. Gongora is exactly who you think he is. He's killing the other immortals and making himself invincible. They confront him in the Hall of Mirrors, which is a cool looking location.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what the
And
name
that is theoretically the border between the original world that the immortals came from in this one. And you never see the other side, which I think is a good touch. Because whatever your brain imagines is going to be better than whatever they managed to have put on screen.
And then, there's a moment where the mortals in your party help to block the mirror's power, while the immortals have to fight Gongora by themselves.
Yeah.
There's a tussle.
Bit of a
Seth has to
gimmicky
drag
fight where yeah.
Gongora through the
they
mirror.
do sorry to interrupt. They do stuff where like he'll do a move that will knock out all your characters and somebody from the sidelines will cast one of their spells outside of your control to heal you all back up. I don't know if you can actually lose that fight.
I don't think so. I think it's
kind of cheat that stuff, yeah. But I think it's in a like a gameplay way. It's a fun way to bring all of these characters and how they've been used as gameplay devices together into one big last moment.
And then you drag Gongora through the mirror, and then Kame breaks the mirror to prevent him from returning. And there's an epilogue. And we have to rebuild society now that the big bad evil dude is. They basically do the Chrono Trigger thing of like all of these characters are kind of like now a thing. Ming marries Jensen. Kame and Sarah are a thing. Cook and Mac need to be raised by Kame and Sarah, which, but they don't have parents, so whatever.
Yeah.
And Seth is able to observe your happy endings.
Yep.
And that's the story.
So you brought up talks about a sequel. Arby, was that you?
Yeah.
Like, because there's nothing. I don't think there's much here that intentionally or unintentionally would lead to an interesting sequel.
No.
If there were another one, if it's just other immortals in some other,
it would have to be a
world,
prequel, right? Like,
I guess, yeah.
Or it would have to, do
or
something
somehow
different.
goes to the other side of the mirror to their home planet, something, because there's not much going on left in the world to pick up.
But then Microsoft and Mistwalker had a falling out over the cancellation of Cryon.
I am not familiar. How's that spelled?
Literally cry on.
Cry dash on.
Like, I'm gonna cry on your shoulder. Cavia was gonna make it.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh, this protagonist character is ringing a bell now. Okay.
You have to imagine that they took some of the stuff from this and put it in Nier.
Nier, yeah.
That's
this looks kind of Nier-y. Honestly,
it
does. Looking at some of the art for it. Wow.
So yeah, that, and in general, the we are going to pay money for JRPGs phase of the Xbox 360 ended around the time Don Matrick took over.
Donnie M.
Like, what was the last one of those? Like Star Ocean 4?
Probably, yeah.
So, yeah, because, Vesperia was 07. Beloved Off the Deep End classic Eternal Sonata was also 07. So
it's still just stuck, right?
Resonance of Fate wasn't a 360 exclusive, was it?
It was timed, I thought. It was kind of like in that Tales of Vesperia thing where I think it was a timed exclusive.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any closing thoughts? Because I feel like in some ways this game feels like a lost PS2 RPG that just so happens to be on the 360.
Yeah, I think that is maybe one of the most interesting things about it. Now that I've actually played it for the first time, I started it, maybe got through the first disc when the game first came out, but this is my first time fully playing the game. And yeah, I agree. There are so many things here, like with the lack of camera control, the um, certain things about the world, the way it's put together, still feels like something from a previous era that got a port to an HD system and got cleaned up somewhat.
Yeah, that's fair, definitely. Um, it
And I like it. I'm glad. You know, it's funny.
I'm
I'm surprised. Don't have a particular stronger feeling considering the way people talk about it. But it's good. I feel good to have satisfied my own curiosity
I'm
after nearly
glad that
2 decades, and
for
it's
those of you
good.
that might be taking some of what we've said as like shitting on this game, I'm
Oh yeah,
glad that this game served as your jumping in point for a fucking treasure trove of RPGs from Japan. I'm so happy that this
I
led to
I think
other
this game
avenues being
is
open.
neat.
Mhm.
I don't think it's exemplary. I think it's neat. And I think it has enough interesting things it is doing for itself, even if not all of those things are done well. It has it
Quick
definitely
note:
has a different vibe than a lot of
they uh, they let the English voice actor for Jansen basically just improv everything, and
yeah,
half the time, whenever he's not facing the camera, he's just saying things, and they just let it go, and it's
great,
very funny. He
great.
just does whatever he wants. And
Yeah,
this is pre-Marvelization of media, so he is kind of funny and wry and jokey, but it's not exactly formulaic in the way you would expect
no.
of something that would have come out even just a couple years later.
Yeah. It's I think it distinguishes itself, but yeah, I think the complaint that like it is working on a curve here because sure
Yeah.
there were still some good RPGs that came out on the 360 and PS3 and the Wii even, but this in general is like the real dark period
Yeah,
for
the
the
novelty
genre.
of this thing existing at the time and place it did is easily the most interesting thing about it.
Like I would go as far as to say most of the meaningful interesting JRPGs between, let's say, I don't know, 2000, 2005, 2006 to what, 2012, 2013. I'm going to say the vast majority of them came out on portables.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lost Odyssey, it's neat. Let's rank it. So you can find our list of ranks at bit.ly/OTDE rank. At number 1, Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven. At number 2, Suikoden. Number 3, Xenosaga Episode 1, The Will to Power. That's what that means in German. Der Wilsermacht. At the bottom 3, at 92, is Unlimited Saga. At 93 is Hoshiwo Miru Hito. And at 94, Probably Forever, unless the next piece of garbage we get is worse, is Descent to Undermountain.
Okay. I think we have a logical spot to compare
Mm-hmm.
this to. I think there is only one other Sakaguchi game to compare this
Yeah.
to as a starting point. Is it better than Xenosaga Episode 2? I'm just kidding.
Um, it's less of a disappointment.
All right, let's go. This is not better than the last story. I think that's going to shock you.
No,
I like the last story more.
I'm going to be I think part of my identity now is I'm going to be the weird guy who really likes the last story and also really likes Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think unfortunately that's going to be part of my brand now. I apologize to everyone in advance because I think the
I
last story,
appreciate the apology for
yeah,
Skyward Sword.
Skyward Sword is good, man. The ways those dungeons are constructed is the best, most inspired dungeon design that series has ever had, and people just got
Lost
mad because
Odyssey, better than Fallout 3.
yes,
Better than Mass Effect the
it
first?
is not better than Ancient Roman. So
Fuck you, dude. Or oh boy, that is gonna hurt a lot of people. Where are you thinking? Where are you thinking? What is your thought? Do you want to go as far as low as Ancient Roman in the 30s?
I mean, I think this game's actually very good, but I would not. I would say it's neat. Excuse me, it's neat.
Okay, well, 25 is Chrono Cross. Better or worse than Chrono Cross?
It's worse than Chrono Cross.
I guess you know your range.
I played Chrono Cross, and I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, it's not as good as Wizards and Warriors.
No, boy,
If you put it at 29 to split the BioWare.
that is actually, I don't think that's a terrible idea. Do you want to put it
Above Dragon Age 2?
but below
And
Mass
below
Effect
Mass Effect.
first?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, let's do it. 30s. Still, I would say still in the I recommend this video game range.
This is in the top third. This is the bottom of the top third, which honestly, for this bottom of the top third for this, that sounds right.
Yeah. All right, congratulations to our new number 29, Lost Odyssey.
Ooh, Lost Odyssey. I'm gonna go watch that trailer again. I'm gonna link it in the chat.
Yeah.
That thing was cool.
Yeah. So now we get to do our new thing. So
Yep.
We've lined up some guests. Joeku, you were the first of many. But we've lined up some guests for our new and exciting podcast initiative, which is the Summer of Sting. I'm not talking about the musician or the wrestler. I'm talking about Sting Entertainment, baby. Sting Entertainment, makers of almost exclusively a bunch of weird esoteric bullshit, and also Dokapon Kingdom. They are basically a JRPG developer tailor-made for Off the Deep End. So for the rest of the summer, Chris and I are going to be joined by various guests to cover shit like Baroque, Evolution for the Dreamcast,
Yep,
Hexy's Force,
Grim
Grimoire is Vanillaware. Nights in the Nightmare.
I'm assuming you won't be playing the Jetsons Invasion of the Planet Pirates?
Oh, there's a non-zero chance we will talk about it. We might talk about the Jetsons game.
Sure.
Listen, this mostly started from us being like, we should do an episode on Baroque. And then I looked at the rest of what they were doing and they had done, and I said, oh, all of this. So our next episode is going to be on Riviera, the Promised Land, which originally was a fucking WonderSwan color game.
Sure was.
And then it was ported to the GBA, and then it was ported to the PSP, and then it was ported to Steam. So we're going to talk about that next time. I'm very excited.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I enjoyed it.
Same.
I think we all did.
Yeah.
I think we all did.
Yeah. So, you can find Joeku on Twitch at Joeku.
Mm-hmm. Nice and simple.
You can find me on Twitch at Arbitrary Water. You can find him on Twitch at Zombie Pie. There's no such thing as cheating in a single-player game. Bye.